So the topic that we discussed, or what we talked about last week, we talked about view, meditation, and conduct, which is an expression in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana, an expression of, or a way of expressing the path towards awakening. And I want to continue to discuss the practice. I want to continue to discuss the pursuit of awakening in the context of these three ideas. Last week, we talked about, in terms of view, is the understanding of the interdependence of all phenomena. That nothing truly exists independently. From a loaf of bread to a thought to a planet to an idea to an experience. It's all a combination of factors that come together. There's no one thing. If you describe a chair, there's no one thing that you can describe as the chair. There's the legs, there's the seat, there's the back, there's the wood, there's the glue, there's the screws, the nails, the upholstery. We label things and we name things, but it's for a matter of convenience. And of course, we live in the relative world, but when we are pursuing real knowledge, then we need to look more closely at these things, at our experience, at how the mind is defining our experience. So, this idea of interdependence, if we really understand it, it's really, really freeing. Because it means that things are in a constant state of flux, in a constant state of change. And in that constant state of change, that points to an infinite number of possibilities, doesn't it? Because nothing is really solid. Our battle with ourselves is because we see solidity where there is none. We are convinced that we are a certain way. We are convinced that we are an independent entity. We are convinced that we can't really change, perhaps. But when we begin to look at whatever our experience is, we see that it is a combination of factors that's coming together in any moment. And the factors come together and then they disappear. If you go to bathe in a river and the next morning you go back to bathe in the river, it's not the same river. It has the same name, but it's not the same river. If you're looking at a campfire and you're looking at a flame and you turn your head away and you turn back to the flame, it's not the same flame. So from moment to moment to moment, nothing actually remains the same. So we take this view, we take this idea, and we explore it. We think about it, we contemplate it. And when we sit down in meditation and we develop those qualities of mind, those qualities of calm and mindfulness and focus, we create a space within ourselves in which we can look without being so pulled away by the certainty of concept. What does it mean not to be pulled away by the certainty of concept? What's that experience? Concept is still there. Idea is still there. But we develop that quality of mind that can just look. That's open. That's not trying to define things. From that quality of mind, that relative stillness of mind. So we have a quietness, we developed a stillness, we develop a quietness. And what that means is we're letting go of certainty of concept. Hmm. What's that experience? So then we can use that quality of mind and investigate our experience. Is there an independent entity here? Is there something in this experience that exists independently of all other things? The train ride our mind is going on in this moment, as you're thinking about your life or thinking about one thing or the other, is there anything of substance to that? So we look. We look. So we have this idea of this interdependence of all phenomena. And what that points to is this idea of emptiness, and not that there is nothing there, but there's nothing that exists on its own. So what's there? Who are we? What's this experience? And we abide there without certainty of view. We don't know. We allow ourselves to rest in that place, observing, but without any certainty. And we begin to start to be comfortable with that great uncertainty, don't we? And when we connect with that great uncertainty, there's a freedom that's there. Because we don't know what the next moment is going to show us. We're not tied into certainty of view. We're not tied into certainty of idea. So we're connecting with that. And when we are in the middle of our day and we're caught up in all types of nefarious activities, all types of happenings going on around us, we contemplate the interdependence of all this activity. And we see how it all comes together for a moment and then it dissipates. It all comes together for a moment and it dissipates. And within that experience, it starts to point to this great openness, this great uncertainty, this great infinite world of possibility. We begin to learn to reside there. So the meditation is meditating on, contemplating the insubstantiality of the content of mind. You're seeing it. You're seeing it in action. And we're abiding in that uncertainty, that sense of openness, because the content isn't fooling us quite as much, because we begin to understand how it comes into being. And when we understand how it comes into being, all these factors coming together, it loses its grip on us. We don't identify with it so tightly, so closely. How can we? How can we? Did you choose the nose you have? Did you choose your nose? That's where the expression comes, the one who knows. No, you didn't choose your nose. Genetics. A long line of those noses. What about your feet? Did you choose your feet? Do they kind of look like your mom's or your dad's, your brothers or your sisters? The line in a John Prine song, give my feet to the footloose and fancy free. Don't you pull that stuff on me. So everywhere we look in terms of our experience, it's conditions and factors that have come together. So what we're doing is we're just trying to open up our view, to have a wider view of what it is we are or what it is we're not. We're opening up to the possibility that the definition that we have in this present moment may not be the whole story. We're using the wisdom of the Buddha and of the masters to help give us direction. But it's only through your own contemplation and your own seeing that you really understand. Somebody wrote to me today saying they don't get caught up in stuff as much as before. Why don't you get as caught up in stuff as much as you did before? Because you've learned to observe your experience from a point of relative quietness and stillness. You've learned to observe your experience from a place of relative uncertainty. I don't need to grab onto that. This isn't who I am. This is a result of a mental state, of a set of conditions. So the more we contemplate that and the more we see that, the more this natural space opens up and begins to point us in another direction. Oh, just letting go of certainty. But can you feel that in this moment when you let go of certainty? Can you feel the space that opens up within you? As soon as this set of conditions changes, there's another set of experiences, aren't there? Outside shoveling the snow and the gold. inside making dinner, waking up in the morning, all of these things. But they're all sets of conditions that are based on all of these factors. So we don't take them to be permanent. Could you imagine if they were permanent and your entire existence was shoveling your driveway? Bill? Could you imagine if that was permanent? Hmm. So when we open up to this infinite uncertainty, if you will, it starts to show us something that's outside of the conditioned. The conditioned is anything that exists that we can see. Anything that exists. But there is an aspect of awareness that opens us up to something that is not any of that. And we find that, we intuit it, we sense it in the quietness, in the stillness. And we arrive at the stillness because we're not grabbing on to all of these definitions about what's actually taking place. We're seeing them as a set of conditions, everything interdependent. We're seeing that. And so in the seeing that, there's a letting go of, there's less grasping, there's a letting go of that set of conditions, knowing that it's going to come and it's going to go. And in that letting go, we open up to this other place. We open up to that which is not all of this activity. And we kind of know it as quietude or silence. And we learn to start to abide there. And as I always say, when we start to abide there, we do it with great attention and attentiveness. And that doesn't that doesn't change. That doesn't change anything that's going on. We're not trying to stop anything. It doesn't change anything that's going on. It just changes our understanding of it. It changes our view of it. It changes our view of it. You're still going to have to shovel your driveway. Is there something in your experience that is outside of definition? Is there something in your experience that's outside of thought? Of course there is. Where do we find it?